I think encouraging a Bikes by Bourbon drinking game.
Right. Every time we say the word supple,
Cheers.
you gotta throw one back.
Yeah.
Supple, supple, supple. Hey there, everyone. Welcome to Bikes and Bourbon. I'm Russ from Path Less Pedaled.
And I am Toffer, the bourbon dilettante.
And today we're gonna drink some fine bourbons.
Oh, yes.
And talk about...
Wild Rye from Bozeman.
Yes, and we're gonna talk about bikes on the internet. So today, what are we drinking today, Toffer?
Well, the first thing we're going to be trying here is from Wild Rye Distilling in Bozeman, Montana.
And it's a gift.
It's a gift. The fine folks at Alter Cycles in Bozeman, the shop next to Adam Sklar's frame building workshop.
And they sent a whole care package, by the way. They sent maps of riding in the area,
music to listen to,
little Hank Williams mixtape,
and yeah, I think it's hard to say the most important thing here because the Hank Williams mixtape is kind of...
They also sent this fun letter. I'm going to read a little bit from it. We wanted to pass along a map to explore the beautiful places in the area, and the Hank Williams tape for the drive over in the old truck you should be receiving with your new Montana residency, which is awesome.
Yeah. I haven't received mine yet.
No. So you know what this means, Topper? This means that Steve, Mason, and Adam are our first KOBs.
KOBs. King of the Bourbons.
I'll tell you a little bit about what we're drinking. We're drinking something called 5 Drops Bourbon. Right. And it's actually a...
Oh, yeah.
How's that bottle?
Oh, it's a beautiful bottle, beautiful box, awesome stuff. There's hidden treasures, Alter stickers.
What?
Alter stickers.
Oh, nice.
Thanks. Sklar stickers.
What?
Sklar. All right.
See, this came in the other day, and I had to practice so much self-restraint and not just like cracking it open.
Patience.
I respect the partnership. So what's unique about this one is it's distilled, and the ingredients are from the Bitterroot Valley. And you actually got to ride with one of the guys that works at Walmart.
Yeah. I rode with Phil this past summer. I went over to Bozeman to meet Adam. They do a Tuesday night ride. In the summers, they barbecue, go to the trailhead. They're riders. They ride bikes.
I love that there's in this second episode, we finally actually have a bourbon and bike connection. Like, we're just not making it up. Like,
right, yeah. This is, it's not just our own two of our favorite things, but it's people. Phil, is an awesome mountain bike rider. And the folks over at Alter are big supporters. I think Wild Ride does a lot to support the bike community there.
How about I'll let you do the. I just want a little, like a tiny pour.
Tiny pour. So you want 3 ounces?
Right. It's a 1-year-old. But what they've done is they actually use small charred oak barrels. So the bigger the barrel, the longer time it takes to kind of age and get those flavors.
Right.
But you can put the whiskey in a smaller barrel and kind of speed up the process a little bit.
And then Phil has, I believe, a doctorate in chemistry.
Okay.
So he knows science.
He knows the science.
He knows the science. This is not just somebody wanting to drink their bourbon quicker. It's
interesting. It's not the typical, I feel like, sweet bourbon notes. There's something...
Yeah, I feel like there's...
It feels kind of like you're smelling a cork or something kind of, Like typically you get like lots of sweetness on the nose, but...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, what's the proof on this guy?
Oh, it's 90 proof, so 45% though.
Wow. So I feel like even, it's relatively high proof, but it goes down really easy.
It does go down really easy I think this is one that I would definitely put in my flask to take on a ride.
Yeah. It's good bikepacking bourbon.
Yeah, good bikepacking bourbon. Definitely is smooth.
I'm liking it because it doesn't taste like the typical bourbon, I think. It's not quite Scotch, but there's a little bit more complexity of flavors going on than like typical like vanilla and caramel and everything.
Yeah.
So there is some sweetness, but there's also kind of, I don't know, there's something else. It's an article by Snob. You guys may or may not follow him, but it was a...
Longtime reader of Snob. So he published this week The Death of Road Riding. And I think he kind of took issue, or he's the not road bikes and not road bike culture per se, but like the idea of like going out for the road ride. Road ride is kind of not something that...
Yeah, I think he kind of posits the idea that, road cycling in the kind of like dress up in full kit kind of way is a little bit on the downside. Like he cites like people having road racing licenses is maybe on the downtick. And he cites a couple different reasons for that. And some of which like I pretty much agree with. Like he said, one issue is that road cycling as a sport isn't very family friendly. If you've ever gone to like a full-on like stage race, you see them zip by and then that's it. Maybe a crit is slightly more entertaining, but it doesn't have the same atmosphere as like a cross race or something.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I can remember going to cross races with my son, who's 3 years old, and because they take place at parks. Yeah, they're fun. You're hanging around. You're moving around to different places. But because they take place in like city parks, there's often a playground.
And there's free.
So yeah. So like I always enjoy taking him to like a cross race because I didn't feel super guilty about racing or about just watching and wanting to like be there because there was kind of something for the whole family. Like as whenever the racers come by or the people you care about, you get to yeah. So but also I think just family friendly riding. I do other types of riding now. I ride with my family.
And that kind of leads into the other point he brings up is that the roads are less safe. Or at least we perceive them to be less safe.
We perceive them to be, yeah.
And it's kind of a hard ask for a family to ride like on the open road with cars if there's not.
But it's just also not as enjoyable. When you get out of a lot of city areas and you're on country roads, you end up finding that cars cannot always be the most accommodating, or they're not used to seeing cyclists out there, or they're less frequent, and so people aren't expecting it. You have distracted driving, people texting.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
people checking the Pathless Pedal Instagram, and so the roads don't feel as safe.
Right. I mean, one of the other things he brings up is a lot of new cyclists are coming into cycling from bike commuting.
Yeah.
And I can totally understand where if you're biking for utilitarian purposes, your next step isn't going to be I'm going to don full kit and then go ride around some laps. It might be bike touring because you already have the rack and panniers or something, but it's probably not going to be buying a racing license and trying to find a team to join.
I think both of us maybe got into bikes over 10 years ago, so the landscape has definitely changed.
In the early aughts.
Yeah. So to try to like think back to then and like what I mean, I think road racing. You were still coming off of like kind of the Armstrong
era, right?
So I think that road racing was what was in kind of the culture.
Yeah, and bike packing had yet to be like really become a thing yet. So
that also speaks though to the fact that road riding has all these like rules that are unspoken and that can feel really like you're like, wait, I don't have my sunglasses on right, or you don't have the right sock height, and it's like I just want.
You have the wrong sock game, Toffer.
Yeah, and I just wanted to ride my bike. I just wanted to like be out there and meet other people. I mean, I remember riding my bike around Seattle when I was first getting into bikes and like wearing like a t-shirt and like gym shorts. Just
doing it wrong.
Yeah, and I was like, and I didn't realize that like there was some
But there is an alternative.
And that like, and then I kind of realized like, oh, maybe there's like this costume I should be wearing.
I do want to read some reader comments.
Reader comments.
So I think we're both kind of
listener comments.
Right.
Watcher, viewer comments. Viewer comments.
We kind of threw this out there into the internet, not knowing where it would go, but the response has been pretty good.
Yeah, it's been really.
I mean, over
really
3,000 views, 140 likes, and then 12 people hit the wrong button.
Right. Well, they're right next to each other.
Yeah, I can see where you can get confused. It's okay. But so I love this comment from Mark Davidson. You guys have a way of talking about niche stuff like bourbon and road plus bikes without coming across as being elitist. Not easily done. Plus, you're clearly having fun to be. It makes for a fun viewing experience. Keep it up. And I think that's really our goal. Is to
definitely
talk about bikes, kind of nerd out about bourbon, and not about it. Trying to leave all the pretensions at the door.
Right.
This is from KS. If I'd taken a drink every time you guys said supple, I'd have caught up in no time. Fun video. Keep up the good work. it's
Great idea, KS.
It's actually a drinking game.
Yeah,
So every time we say supple.
I think we also, like we said last time about bikes and accessibility around bike packing, we drink responsibly.
Yes. If you don't like bourbon, you can drink your La Croix. Any final thoughts before we move on?
I've been, like the woodsiness has definitely stuck with me.
It's kind of transparent, just blends in, and you can have a nice time, and
definitely.
It's not like
really nice.
It's not punching you in the face. So thank you, folks at Alter and Sklar.
King of the Bourbon.
King of the Bourbon.
KOBs.
Yeah, and you can, if you're a woman, you can be a queen of the bourbons. So it's equal opportunity.
Oh, right, definitely. So what should we switch over to?
Well, let's do
Bullet or Buffalo Trace?
Let's do Buffalo Trace.
Okay. Clean the glass out.
We're not heathens.
So yeah, this is just
Buffalo Trace.
Buffalo Trace.
Yeah, you can find it.
It's
Nothing exotic.
Nothing exotic, but I think still something.
It's a staple.
A little bit special. I like Buffalo Trace.
I think like a lot of us, I got into bikes and beer in the early aughts. Love that. But then as we matured and aged like a fine bourbon, maybe our tastes have changed. That we wanted something that would make us feel less puffy when we drank it. It's gluten-free.
Yep.
And it's lightweight.
Trendy.
This is the bike. This is like bike packing beer. It's beer concentrate.
Right. I mean, and I'm excited to try this off the heels of that.
So this I'm already getting like kind of cherry caramel, like more typical bourbon smells.
Yeah, all the
Actually, a lot of cherry. It's weird, like when you drink things after other things, it'll change the flavor of.
Right.
Yeah. Like the woody notes of the 5 drops is bringing out the sweetness in this one.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like.
Definitely.
I'm getting like candied cherries or.
Yeah, it's definitely there's something fruity
Yeah.
that's coming out of this that I don't normally get so forward.
Yeah. Let's switch up to the video.
Brian Vernor has been making bikey videos for
and he's
while.
also like he's a well-known bike photographer. You might have known his work from that like epic, iconic cover of Bicycling where it had Topper riding on the cover like shirtless. Exactly, bam, there it is.
Yeah, I don't think
so. You've worked with Brian before.
I mean, one of the things I like about his videos is the storytelling and the thought that he puts into the kind of using the medium. And so he often will shoot with different formats. So this video, Hilo, California, he used Super 8 and 16 millimeter.
Which sounds like a pain in the ass. Like I would not want to do
I
that.
wonder, and I thought like, did he use Super 8 and 16 because they kept breaking?
Right.
So he was like, the Super 8's done. Like, get out the 16. All right, that's done.
Yeah, like in terms of like grams per minute of footage, you do not get very many.
Yeah, one of the things I liked about this video, Hilo, California, is that this is how I have been thinking about riding my bike when like kind of not like on an everyday type of way, but just like when I think about things that I want to do on my bike. I think most of the folks in it live in LA and they go to Death Valley. Once again, I can wrap my mind around that. Like, I drive for a few hours, go to a destination, and then I can do a cool bike ride. And so they go from the lowest elevation in Death Valley, which is also the lowest elevation in the United States, to Mount Whitney. Like maybe it's in California, I don't know, high-low. I think that's like one way that I think about kind of bike rides is like that destination. Like, I want to go to this like lookout tower in Missoula. We have a lot of fire lookout towers. It's like, that would you'd get a cool vantage point from there. So this film kind of spoke to that sense of adventure and like kind of plotting your own route. So
I liked it and didn't like it at the same time. I have to be honest. I liked it from the technical perspective. Brian clearly he's an awesome photographer. Really brings that to this video. And there's lots of experimentation in form. You can read like Wes Anderson-ish. kind of like the whip zooms and kind of just the quality about it. But I feel like what was missing for me was kind of a lack in connection with the riders. It was kind of like, okay, 3 dudes show up in the desert and they ride their bikes. But there wasn't like any like I didn't get a sense of them as people, and like I didn't get a real sense of conflict or like what the crisis was to overcome. So in that sense, like I felt like there wasn't quite enough story for me. Although I mean it was beautifully shot, but like it just didn't like. For the first 5 minutes, they don't say anything.
Right.
So I feel like you could do a shorter edit of that and like have words. Maybe like a kind of like a narration that's not too schmaltzy.
Sure.
And kind of tie it all together a little bit.
So they deal with like near 100 degree temperatures, but then also like
It's in the 30s.
Goes down to the 30s, and like one of them puts on like a emergency
like a Mylar blanket.
It's trying to stay warm, but then it also like, and maybe this is nice, like in a narrative sense. You're like, oh, it's this whimsical, but then you realize that no, he's cold.
All right. Okay, so there was a little bit of conflict.
Sometimes, but those things like where you're dealing with the elements, you're dealing with like, I think it ends up being close to a 200-mile ride. I mean, that's like itself is a physically challenging task to ride. As you know, you're getting ready to.
Don't do it. It's terrible.
You're thinking about riding 200 miles, and so I mean, yeah, that's a daunting thing.
There's good riding footage. There's good scenery footage. There's definitely an awesome sense of place, but I feel like for me, I wanted to hear like the internal dialogue of like because you never get a sense that they could have failed at any point. There's no risk of failure, so there was like. I felt like for me, I was missing some drama. It was beautifully shot, but I feel like it was a little bit more of like a sketch than necessarily a finished product. Like he was kind of testing out some themes.
Sure.
Yeah, the music was on point.
The music was awesome.
Yeah, I think the music was probably my favorite part. Yeah. And then playing with like different ways to montage things.
Didn't know if it was like a good thing or a bad thing that I didn't know anything about their bikes at the end. I mean, there's a part of that that's right. It's not about the bikes. It's about the human journey.
It's about the lifestyle, man. Yes. I think in terms of a brand film, if it was, I don't know, I'm just speculating. That was good that it wasn't like Cannondale front center.
Right.
It felt, you know what it reminded me? It felt like a surf movie. Or like the old or like the 60s like Cal of the North kind of like experimental Belgian
like Endless Summer.
Yeah, like that for surfing. But also there were like this weird period in the 60s and 70s where people were making bicycling films. It felt kind of like that. I enjoyed it mostly, and then at the end when I saw it was a slate, I just don't like that bike.
Go check it out.
Yeah.
I mean I think as a way to spend a little bit of time in Brian Vernor's bike world, I think that's a great thing. I love.
Would this be a good bourbon to drink with it?
I think actually they drink Bullet.
Do they?
At one point.
I saw that. Yeah, you're right.
I think Brian takes a pull from the bottle.
Yeah.
So I think maybe.
So you could go with Bullet, or you could go with the 5 drops. We talked about the Surly Midnight Special in the previous one.
Yeah.
Morgan Taylor of Found the Mountains did a review for the Radavis.
Morgan does a great job, I think, of like taking all the technical numbers and all the details and making you kind of understand how it rides.
Yeah, there's some nerdery in the beginning, but then he does come around to how it feels. And I feel like he summarizes it like it rides like a road bike but with fat tires.
Right. Yeah.
This is different from say other 650B bikes that we've seen where everything's really slack and they're not necessarily performance oriented, it sounds like.
Like the Surly Straggler.
Right.
Which I think a lot of people are confused. A lot of people that care about this stuff, it's like, this does seem somewhat of an odd move for Surly to make. I think people, like, there's like, you just don't have that connection between Surly, road bike.
Right.
And that's what the Midnight Special is. Like, I think that's like, it's a road bike. It's like, it's just a really interesting bike to see from Surly. I mean, I think that the folks at Surly are obviously always thinking about, like, I mean,
how to confuse people.
Well, how to confuse people. I mean, but it's like they're like, I feel like talk about like bike nerds.
Right. So
the folks at Surly, I think, are always thinking about like, well, how can we make bikes like a little bit better, a little bit different? From like what Morgan says about the Midnight Special is that if you incorporate like some rougher road, if you like to go off on some gravel connectors to get to different places on your rides, that like this bike could be a good fit because it feels snappy as a road bike, it handles well as a road bike, but it can take like over 2-inch tires.
So it used to be the case that like a tire in say the 32 to the 47 range was like a beefy bike commuting tire that rode like bricks and had like no suppleness whatsoever.
Right.
But now we're getting kind of more performance oriented.
Right. More
like,
supple.
More supple.
You would say.
One
maybe.
would say supple. You know, that could be an adjective that you could use to describe that. So if you had to choose, like, are you more Midnight Special or Gorilla Monsoon kind of person?
Oh, definitely Gorilla Monsoon.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence because at first I thought, I was more Gorilla Monsoon.
Yeah.
But then after reading Morgan's review, I'm kind of leaning towards more Midnight Special because I kind of want that road quickness, but with like a bigger tire.
Oh,
like
sure.
There's something interesting in like that weird mishmash. I
Yeah.
love the look of the Gorilla Monsoon.
Yeah.
Like my favorite color is orange, so the fact that it's like two oranges together,
fading into each other.
But then, like hearing the description of the Midnight Special, I'm kind of like, well, maybe.
I loved it for all of the like the data that we have just talked about. It comes down to like, but the Gorilla Monsoon has two oranges that fade into each other.
It's like having two orange bikes in one. So, what do you think of this after talking and drinking the other thing? I feel like now it's starting to taste like the Buffalo Trace that I remember tasting.
The old Buffalo Trace you're used to.
So kind of sweet, rounded.
I mean, I think that's the reason why I was excited to try the Buffalo Trace after the 5-drop, because I was wanting to like kind of get, to me this Buffalo Trace can be like that nice, like a centering, getting a baseline.
So it's a barometer of like what a bourbon usually tastes like.
Thanks to Wild Rye, Alter, Sklar, all the folks in Bozeman doing cool bike and bourbon stuff. We appreciate you.
And yeah, thanks for all you guys for watching, for sticking through, leaving comments, and liking this wacky episode.
Yeah, we're having fun doing this. So
until next time, ride bikes,
travel,
and do good. Cheers.